Hello and welcome to the United Stand. Lots to talk about. Got Rodney joining us in a few minutes. I know that's going to make you happy, but let me make you sad, or maybe happy first of all. A few things. Perisic is on the plane to China. I mean, this transfer window could just not go any worse. It's becoming a farce. So Perisic, the player that we were meant to sign last night, the player that we've been haggling for nearly 2 months now, has got on a plane to China. So if we ever sign him, you can at least add 3 weeks onto before we get him out. It is a bloody, I retract that, blood. I don't like to use even little swear words, but it is a joke. An absolute joke, which we'll come to in a minute. But fun, I've got a positive for you. I've got a funny joke for you actually to start off with. Did you know that when Manchester United play Manchester City in the early hours of Friday morning, if UK Manchester City fans want to watch it, they'll have to subscribe to MUTV. How funny is that, you small club? Go and take the L. But back to Manchester United. Well, pat yourself on the back if, like me, you've been up since 1 AM yesterday. 1 AM this morning. I tell you, it's been a struggle at times today, but we've got through it. And tiredness it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. But I can't really say it was worth it. No, it's always worth it to watch Manchester United. But we will be talking about the failings of the 4-3-3 when I get Rodney on in a minute as well. But let's hit the latest transfer news with you, because it doesn't make pretty reading, I've got to be honest. It really doesn't. Perisic has got on the plane to China, as I say. Mourinho is apparently furious, absolutely furious. We know we know because he told us that he gave the transfer list to Woodward back in March. We know that Morata was his first choice because he told us. And we know that Perisic was one of his first choices as well, because he's been scouting him for ages, and he went over to Croatia, Ukraine at the end of March to speak to Perisic's agent. Just a farce, an absolute farce. I don't know. The only positive I can spin on you tonight is that I just hope that we actually are going to do something big. Like we're holding off. These are all smoke screens, and we're actually holding off for a big, massive signing that's going to make us all go, oh, it wasn't really that bad. You know, we were moaning about nothing. But part of me thinks maybe that's not going to happen. I can't understand. Look, Inter Milan don't need the money anymore. Up until the end of June, we could have got Perisic for about 30 million because they had to find 30 million. They found it. They spent it. They don't need to sell Perisic. They don't want to sell Perisic. And Inter Milan, like AC Milan, are a rich club now. So Manchester United's haggling for the last 2 months trying to get him for 35 million, which is what he's worth. It's over. They want 50 million. We want to pay 40 million. Offer them 45 million. If they say no, pay 50 million or walk out. I don't really care if Liverpool and Arsenal and City fans laugh at us because we've overpaid for Perisic. If that's what Mourinho wants, pay the money and let the rest moan and laugh at us, because we're used to that. Fortress Old Trafford, siege mentality. If Perisic is what Mourinho wants, never should have been allowed to get on the plane to China. Never should have haggled. Get the money, spend the money, and bring him over to the US, and let's start building for next season right now. Because last summer, we went and spent 90 million on Pogba. £30 million too much, but Mourinho wanted him, and we spent the money. This haggling is getting on my nerves, and it is jeopardising our season. I'm not going to read too much into the pre-season results because they don't really mean a hell of a lot. But we've been naive ostriches burying our head in the sands to say that there aren't red flags in relation to the way we played last night, which I'll come to in a minute. I mean, we're talking about Perisic. Who is the centre defensive midfielder? We're now hearing that United can't get close to any of their first target, their priorities, like Nainggolan. He's going to sign a new contract. Eric Dyer, we don't want to spend silly money on him. So now, the latest is we're just going to go all out for Matic because he wants to come to United because we can't get the players we want. Well, hip hip hooray! I'm so happy that we're now going to go and sign Matic, a player that we don't really want, but he wants to come to us, and he used to play for Mourinho. And guess what? He's another tall, slow player. Fantastic. I look forward to watching our midfield three, like last night and like for most of the end of last season, passing it around amongst themselves with no dynamism, no pace and no cutting edge. Because yesterday, the second half, with Fellaini, Herrera and Pereira was diabolical, absolutely diabolical. It was like the grinding out results of last season, where we created absolutely nothing. And you can moan about altitude, you can moan about fitness, but these are football players. They should still be able to string a few passes together and create a few chances. That's nothing to do with fitness. And the 4-3-3 is flawed. It's flawed, and it's now being highlighted by the fact that we are failing. We are, you know, forget the L, we are the F at the moment. 4-4-3 is failing. We're failing in the transfer market, and time is running out. We're playing Manchester City on Friday. Now, if we get beat 5-0 by Manchester City, I won't be there going, oh, we're going to have a rubbish season, because I don't really think pre-season results are that important, because you could change 4 or 5 players and let 3 goals in. What is important is the tone of the team, the attitude of the team. And we've seen in training that we look really happy, and everyone's, you know, playing piggybacks with each other and high-fiving, and you know, they're all doing little dances, and Lingard's flapping his hands. I mean, he played quite well last night, but I don't care about that. We've got to play good football. We can't just go into another season of grinding out results, Mourinho style, because he hasn't got the players he wants, so he reverts to, I'll keep it tight and nick a goal. Mourinho can play expansive football. We've seen it even at Manchester United. But this was the summer where he was meant to get the players in. And I'm just concerned what the truth is. Is Mourinho saying, well, yeah, don't, you know, if he wants to come, get him for this price, but if we can't get him for that price, don't go any higher than that? Or are the clubs saying, yeah, you might want those players, but you're not having them at any price? It is scary. Axel G says, we don't need Perisic. I tell you what, Axel, I don't know whether you watched the game last night, but I said it on my video this morning. I'm typing Perisic into Skype. I'm trying to sign him now. I'm meant to be typing in Rodney. I'm trying to sign Perisic off Skype. But no, if you watched the game last night, look, I don't care if your name's Perisic. I don't care if your name's Oxlade-Chamberlain. Get somebody in who's quick, who can run down the wing and put a cross in. You know, it is that bad. It is that bad. We had Andreas Pereira last night putting all the good crosses in, and nobody else offering any width. And again, it's a failing of Manchester United and this inability to put crosses into the box that goes way back to Louis van Gaal. It goes back to Moyes. It's a failing system at the moment, and we need to figure out what we're going to do about it, because ultimately we can sign players. I was hoping that we would have got Perisic in today. And look, I'm not being negative for negative's sake. I'm concerned. It's not really about the pre-season game last night. It was just like it was like progression from last season. And maybe I'm taking a step back to the way we were playing last season, where we've got this midfield 3 that's just so static and so dull. And, you know, apart from Lingard in the first half, the midfield was really dull again with Pogba and Carrick. I mean, God, the first half was even worse. Carrick and McTominay. God, you may as well have put a couple of bags of cement out there for pace. I mean, I like Carrick. I like Carrick a lot, but he's coming towards the end of his career. McTominay's got no future at Manchester United. He's clearly there just to fill spaces because we haven't signed somebody. But the midfield is just driving me mad. It is so slow and dull. And we revert to 4-3-3 again, when at the weekend, the big problem... I've got Rodney now, so I'm going to let him talk. But the big thing I was positive about on the LA Galaxy game, and forget the opponents, I'm not bothered about that. I'm talking about the way Manchester United play. The one positive about the LA Galaxy game is because we played 3-5-2, the midfield, and because we had 2 up front, in that final third of the Manchester United team, there was a lot of players and there was a lot of speed and there was a lot of movement of the ball, and it looked good. Yesterday, it was the total opposite. You've got 4 at the back, you've got 3 very static midfielders, so you've effectively got 7 people. You've got 3 up front where 2 are very wide. You've got Rashford isolated up front, and there's nothing happening between Rashford and what was, stunningly, Fellaini in the second half as the attacking midfielder and Pereira as the centre defensive midfielder. It was just ridiculous. That was madness. I mean, Fellaini is your creative force. You're not going to create anything, and we didn't. Pereira, I thought, played okay, but he's just wasted at centre defensive midfield. But Rodney, I've spoken about the Perisic thing. He's on the plane to China. Let's start off with that. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh gosh, Mark, I don't even know what to say with that. I mean, I think we've been linked to so many players by leaks in the media, or if it's our own foolish hope in terms of the players that we need to bring in. that I think we've almost lost sight of what is realistic with Manchester United. I can't understand a player that we've been linked with for weeks, who was rumoured to be on his way to Manchester, who apparently refused to travel with his team, is now on his way to China. We are desperately, and the word desperately is probably an exaggeration in terms of it. We're in dangerous position of not getting any of the signings that we as fans thought we would get. And because we don't know the names on the list that Mourinho put forward to Woodward, anyone that comes in now, I think we'd just be grateful for. But I am shocked because he's definitely a player that we need to sign. And as much as some United fans may not say he's not a marquee player, when you look at his attributes, simple, in terms of crossing the ball, in terms of being naturally gifted for either foot, having the ability to go past the player in the final third. Yesterday in the second half, that was very, very clear. We didn't have someone on the team that could do that.
Yeah, I would imagine everybody's probably seen the game by now, and whatever you think of Perisic, I'm fed up of saying it. I mean, the general you. Name me a player that's going to give us all those attributes, and let's sign him instead, because we need somebody like Perisic out wide. We are terrible, absolutely terrible out wide. We put one good cross in the game yesterday. No, actually, Rashford put one on Fellaini's head, and lo and behold, the big clown who's meant to be good in the air missed it. Jose Mourinho put a decent cross in the first half that Lukaku probably would have got onto, but I think he was so shocked that a cross came in and he reacted a bit late. We just don't put enough crosses in, and it's always been the United way. And Perisic, you know, if we sign him, he's not going to be Neymar. He's not going to score 50 goals and, you know, win the Ballon d'Or. But I'll tell you what he would do. He'd put 50 crosses in every month, and we'd probably score 2 or 3, which is 2 or 3 more than we're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking about it there. Let's sort of move through the things as we move towards this formation issue. But the centre defensive midfielder, we know we need one. Apparently, we're now going all out for Matic because we can't get the players that we want. I mean, I don't want Matic, but if we get him, I'll back him. But you know what? Even more after last night, I don't want him, and I will argue this with anybody now, because I've been called negative about Matic, and it's nothing to do with Matic the footballer. I appreciate he's a good footballer, but if anybody wants to argue about Manchester United's midfield last night, and this point I'm going to make, Matic is not what we need. He is too slow. Our midfield 3 in both halves yesterday was so slow, so unimaginative, and so static, like it was for the last few months of last season. When I say we need a tenacious, quick midfielder, it's not just because I want a Kante prototype. It's because I watch Manchester United, I watch that midfield 3 week in, week out, and it is dull as dishwater, boring. It is so easy to play against. It creates nothing. It needs a shot in the arm. It needs a shot of adrenaline. It needs a 9-goal, and it needs a Fabinho. It needs somebody to drop in there. Even Jose Mourinho, which he'll never do. Just somebody who's got a bit of purpose about them, a bit of fight about them. Even put Valencia in there, Antonio Valencia. Just put somebody in there who's tenacious, quick, is going to win the ball and feed Pogba and Herrera. Because Carrick, I love Carrick. He's finished. There's no point. He's too slow. McTominay, no point in being there. Matic, again, just a slow player. Fellaini, slow. I don't know what you think, Rodney, but I'm not judging the pre-season game, but it was just a flashback to last season, last night. Back to the boring 4-3-3. Back to the slow midfield. We need some pace. That's why I don't want Matic.
No, we do need pace. I think we do. I think what you said is I mean, even though it was a friendly, even though it's pre-season, you would expect to see some different kind of energy from the players that are actually in the squad. Fellaini, we've seen for the time that he's been at Old Trafford, he's not someone who's quick. He's not someone who's going to be dynamic on the ball. I was surprised to see him so far forward, and Pereira playing as the holding midfielder.
Stunning.
Yeah, I know, but that just says because Pereira he has more energy across the ground. He would get to a position quicker in terms of closing players down. Herrera, I mean, he played well for us last season, but he's not a holding midfielder. You know, he's filled in a gap where we had issues, and to be honest, we haven't replaced Roy Keane. That's the reality of it. You know, we have to go that far back. We haven't had a midfielder that we can honestly say has gone on and dominated the midfield and driven the midfield forward as United fans expect it. In terms of the formation, when you've got three in the midfield, the three in midfield need to be really fluid. They need to be technically gifted in any of the positions, whether it's central or wide, so that the front three are able to move about and pick the ball up either short passes or long passes. The middle three should have the ability to go past the player. Not one, okay, apart from Pereira because of his positional sense in terms of where he was playing. Herrera's never been known to go past players once he has the ball. He's more often, you know, in terms of percentages, he will pass the ball off to someone else and then move. And Fellaini, he can go past someone, but it's not going to be dynamic. You know, he'll be able to push the ball past someone and may be able to shrug them off the ball. Maybe 2 or 3 strides, but it's not going to actually create the buzz that you need to kind of get towards the strikers. So I wouldn't say that the formation is the issue. I would say it's the personnel.
Yeah,
that we have.
I would agree that, and I'm just going to pick up on some comments that we can talk about here because it is all about the comments as well. I mean, Shoot Neutrality says you really need Nainggolan then. He's not a CDM, but he's a box-to-box midfielder. I'd love him. James Solent says Carrick was never fast. He never runs. He just plays it cool. Look, I think people are getting a bit lost here. I'm judging Manchester United on what they've been as a midfield three for the last 6 months under Mourinho. Yeah, last night's pre-season. I don't want to judge that, but I'm talking about the last few months of the season. And Michael Carrick's one of my favourite players at Manchester United, but that sort of player in our team at the moment, I'd bench him. If there was better, if we had Nainggolan, I would bench Carrick. It's not about Matic being a crap footballer. It's not about Carrick being a bad footballer. It's about our midfield being so static and slow and easy to play around. And maybe that's just one player that we need to change. But OGTNE says Mark rates players entirely on pace. Not at all. Not at all. I'm talking about the midfield. Rahil says, Mark, this isn't FIFA. I don't know whether you people who are being critical of this are actually watching Manchester United. I tell you what, let's sign Matic, and while we're at it, let's sign Eric Dyer as well. Let's get 3 slow midfielders who are good, and you watch if Manchester United make any progress from last season. We will not, because like Rodney says there, get Renato Sanchez in. Get somebody who, when they get the ball, get Ross Barkley in. Get somebody who, when they get the ball, will run with it, run at players and create things. We are so easy to play. Me, touching 40, would love to play against Manchester United's midfield because I know they're not going to run at me and I know they've got no pace. So if I position myself and get my team set up right, we're not going to have any worries. We created nothing last night.
I think anyone, I mean, if anyone gets the chance to watch the game again, even if the second half, when you look at the positional sense that Fellaini and Herrera, where they don't put themselves close enough to the opposition player. So in terms of their anticipation, they're a fraction of a second too slow. When you add that to the fact that they're not necessarily quick anyway, it makes the United midfield look really slow. So if you're going to play 4-4-3, you're either going to have to pick up man-to-man on certain individuals. You're going to then expect your back 4 to kind of push forward onto the midfield. So those where they're coming onto you, they are picking up the extra players in terms of the movement. Now, the front 3 was so far adrift from the midfield, they started to drop back. And then Rashford is then isolated. And then what you then have is long balls being played forward. And they're percentage passes. They're not accurate. They're not, 100% where they're definitely going to meet the mark. They're, 50, 55%. We're playing it into an era and we hope he gets it. That's not good enough, even in a friendly. Now, I know that it's a friendly and we can say, we should be too critical, but at that level of football, for footballers, and I say that are professional footballers, who their daily job is to train and work on areas where they're weak, I would expect something a little bit more than what I saw in the second half. That's, for me, that's the one thing that stood out.
I mean, yeah, I'm reading the comments while I'm listening to Rodney, and there's some great points in there, and some of them are very different to mine and what Rodney's saying, and I do respect that, because if that's what you believe, that's what it's all about. I'm not saying let's go and buy the 3 quickest midfielders in world football. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's flair. It's a package. It's flair. It's ability to run at players. It's tenacity. It's movement of the ball quick as well. It's not just being leg quick. It's mind quick. It's first touch quick. It's first pass quick. It's
Yeah.
running with the ball quick. It's look, if I had my choice for Manchester United at the moment, Rodney, this was in my head just so I don't forget it.
Yeah.
People are moaning about, oh, we need another striker, which I think we do. People are moaning that we need Perisic, which I think we do. But the most important thing for me is we could probably get by with Lukaku, Martial, Rashford, Lingard, Mata, Mkhitaryan, all those players if we had a good midfield three. It sets the tempo for the whole team. I mean, what would you put into that midfield three? I suppose I've sort of skirted around what I would do, but what would be your ideal three to make us better?
I think, to be honest, and when you talked about Matic, let me quickly mention the Perisic thing, because it doesn't look like we're getting him now. It gives the sense that the club is now scrambling to bring players in. Chelsea will then think about, well, if they need Matic, they'll push the price up. We're finding it very difficult to secure players abroad, even though we've been linked to Fabinho, who would be ideal for the midfield. But for some reason, we don't see him turning up at Old Trafford. So it may be, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, that we go for someone like Dyer, who is slightly younger than Matic. There might be a resale value, and then on top of that, we get someone with a bit of flair. Now, someone mentioned in the comments, Keita from Augsburg, a box-to-box midfielder who can knit the pass together and bring in the front three. Should we play a 4-3-3? Now, again, we don't know enough about him, but what I've seen of him, I really, really like. But again, he's been linked to Liverpool, so I don't know in terms of whether we would actually go in for him or whether we've been actually officially linked to him. But he's the kind of player that I think Man United would do very well to buy, or he would fit into the system if we had a centre midfielder that actually stayed and defended in terms of the back four.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I said, the midfield is where you win and lose it, because I think that's where we went wrong last season. I've said it so many times this week alone, but if we play Fellaini 30 games next season like we did last year, we're battling for fourth. It's a fact on so many levels. I mean, he played particularly badly last night, but it's pre-season. I'm not bothered about that. He had some decent games last season. He had some bad games. But let's be honest, Fellaini on a good day still doesn't get into any of the top 6 sides. And that is why he has to be a squad player. He's just not good enough. And he shouldn't be anywhere near the midfield three. So what I would do with Manchester United, if I was Mourinho, and I'm sure he's probably done it, he's given the list to Woodward in April, which I want to talk to Rodney about in a minute. But for me, what I would do, you've already got 2 midfielders that are very good, Pogba and Herrera. I would get Pogba and Herrera in there. I would move Jose Mourinho in there. I would use Pereira in there. I'd bring Fabinho in, and I'd get Renato Sanchez on loan. Now, however you want to pick that 6, I ain't bothered. But I'll tell you what, you've got Pogba, Herrera, Jose Mourinho, Fabinho, Renato Sanchez, Pereira. They all have the thing I want. Now, none of them are particularly Usain Bolt fast, but they're quick on the ball. They all play football. They're all tenacious. That is what we want. I don't want Carrick. I don't want Fellaini. I don't want Matic, because they're the same sort of slow player. We need 6 modern midfielders who are good on the ball, can run with the ball, can get into a tackle, and when we've not got the ball, they're going to get back into position and they're going to press. And that is what we need. And it's not rocket science. Renato Sanchez is available on loan. Fabinho's available for about £40 million. And we've already got Pereira, Jose Mourinho, Pogba and Herrera. So we've got the tools nearly. I don't want to go, Verratti would be lovely. I'm not saying go and spend 100 million. I'm just saying it's the right type of midfielder. And Mourinho just seems to have the, before we talk about Woodward there, Rodney, I cannot overemphasise this enough. Fellaini was our attacking midfielder last night, and Pereira was the centre defensive midfielder. Now, Pereira was one of the best players in La Liga in a relegated side creatively last season for take-ons, creating chances. He's played well in the 2 pre-season tour games, but he's playing in Michael Carrick's role. I mean, it's farcical. I don't know why he's doing that. And we created nothing in the second half, by the way. If people didn't watch it, we created nothing.
No. I mean, there was an opportunity where I think Martial kind of ghosted inside to create the opportunity to shoot, and it went wide. But I mean, that was something when he picked it up and kind of came inside. But in terms of the service from the midfield three, it wasn't good enough. They were far too deep, far too remote from one another. I suppose the sending off didn't help, but regardless, for me, the play was too slow. It was too slow, and we could use humidity as an issue and say, oh, they're not used to it. That's fine, but speed of thought. You need to be able to see the pass before you receive the ball, so that once you receive it, you know where it's going to go. And I think when you watch the game, it seemed to be we've got the ball and we'll look up and see who's available. And by that time, the press was on, and then the pass looks hurried and it doesn't look as clean as it should look. And that's, for me, as a Man United fan, it looks clunky, doesn't look attractive. And in any team, it doesn't look attractive. Just doesn't.
A lot of people saying it's only pre-season. If you were here at the start, you'll know I've said that 4 or 5 times. What I'm saying is that second half and the first half, I mean, I want to talk about a couple of other players as well, but that game yesterday, it was pre-season, I accept that, but it was a big red flag to last season because it was exactly the same as last season. Poor midfield, nothing happening, no movement, nothing being created, and that is a warning sign. And we were exactly right to be concerned about it, because when you think about the end of last season and how we played, and we did it last night, you think about what's going on in the transfer market, and you think, we are going to start the season again with Herrera, Pogba and Fellaini, and that is it's not going to work. It is not going to work. We're going to have the same problems as last year because we're going to be very static in the midfield. Few people asking about Perisic. The only place he's going is China. He got on the plane this afternoon. I can't believe it. I've got to put. I mean, let's talk about that for a few minutes, Rodney.
I'm hoping it's a body double and it's not him.
I cannot. I tried to be positive, and just before I got you on, I was saying my positive angle on this is that hopefully it just means Manchester United are going to do something big. I think I'm deluding myself, but hopefully it means we're going to do something big, because I can't, we're not dealing in speculation here. I totally appreciate there's been a lot of speculation out there. I mean, we were told Perisic was going to sign tomorrow night by the person who told us Lindelof was, and he said that to me a week before Lindelof did. So that person's wrong. But to say they're wrong is like saying, well, we were going to sign Griezmann and you got that wrong. We were signing Griezmann. He pulled out. I believe we were trying to get Morata and we pulled out. I believe we've been trying to get Perisic. I don't know whether we've pulled out or what. I just think we're not willing to pay the money for him. But what we do know, let's look at the facts. Mourinho has publicly said, he said it after the Europa League final, I gave Ed Woodward the transfer list in April. It may have even been March, but definitely April. We are now in the middle, towards the back end of July. We've been on a tour for over a week and we've bought 2 players. And we know for a fact, because Mourinho said last week he wants another 2. Which for me, at this moment in time, I've been defending him, but Woodward's failed. We've got to face up to the fact that he has failed. I don't know whether you agree with that at home. I don't know whether you agree with that, Rodney. But Mourinho has spelt it out for us. He wanted 4 players. He's got 2. And now Perisic has gone to China. I can't see that happening. I can't see, if it's going to happen, it won't happen till August, which, to be honest, it may as well not happen, because he's not going to be part of the team to bed himself in. And the centre defensive midfielder, I think it'll be Matic, and I think that's a tragedy of not a tragedy. I think it's a bad transfer window.
I mean, in terms of Wood, I mean, I've kind of said things about Woodward before where I thought that I think he tries to think himself as one of the Real Madrid directors, and he wants the Galactico signing, and maybe the list that Mourinho gave him wasn't as glamorous as he wanted. I can't work out why someone whose brief is to basically bring players in at this time of the year, we've been so slow. I mean, I'm not one to measure us against Manchester City, but I said last week that they got about their business really early. They went and secured players, and they announced it quickly to say who they were actually bringing in. They released the players that they didn't want very quickly so they could go elsewhere. And we've got this kind of, we're in Vegas and we're playing with the house and the prize is there, but we don't want to actually pay for the chips. Manchester United are a marquee club. The minute we turn up, everyone starts putting their prices up and saying, oh, you've got to pay an extra 20 million. If that is the case, then that's the price that we have to pay for being a big club. This really is. The people are jealous. Even with Real Madrid, they know that as much as they may have won so many European trophies, our name means something around the world. It has cachet. It has, a certain kind of style and panache that people want to be attached to and linked with. So if that is the case, and those clubs say we've got to pay an extra 20, pay the 20 million. because we've already seen with players that we do buy, Mark, that once they arrive at Old Trafford, they don't want to leave. We had to literally force out Wayne Rooney because he was on such a healthy contract, and we've got players like Fellaini. We must know that fans aren't really a fan of his, but he doesn't want to leave. We've got other players that are there that don't want to leave. So go the extra mile and pay the money, and once those players arrive, they won't want to leave either. But we've got to do something, because it's becoming almost a joke that we've been linked to so many quality players and then nothing comes of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what surprises me is, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, and everyone at home as well, is that last summer we were in the Europa League, and we were in, you know, it seems to me when United are in a difficult position, we go out and blow people away. I remember that summer with Van Gaal, and we went and got like Di Maria and Blin. We spent a lot of money, and last summer as well, when we're not in the Champions League, we spent really well. We spent a lot of money, but we spent really well. This summer, if we'd not got in the been in the Europa League, we wouldn't have got as much money from Adidas. That was a fact. We get in the Champions League, we get the Champions League money. We should be attracting the best players, and it appears the perfect time to build and be going for the Premier League, and we're back in the Champions League and be a challenge in that. We just don't look interested in making transfers, and I contrast that again with a team that's not in the Champions League, but are winning the transfer summer quite conclusively in AC Milan, and United just seem. I don't understand what's going on. All we can go off is this is not the summer Mourinho planned, and I think it's a dangerous game, and I think people need to understand this, because if we're frustrated as fans, you can guarantee Mourinho's frustrated, and he won't be quiet. And you talk about how long Mourinho will be at Manchester United. I tell you what, if Woodward screws this summer up, which I think he is at the moment, I don't know whether Mourinho will be here that long, because if United continue like they did last season, and let's be honest, good moments, we won the Europa League, but we could easily have been knocked out. We didn't play very well between Christmas and May. If that continues next season, and Mourinho's not been given the players he wants, I can see trouble ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you in terms of Mourinho not being happy. I think when we look back at last season in terms of what the club achieved with him as a manager, it was kind of like an Alex Ferguson moment. The team wasn't good enough to win the league. It wasn't good enough. We didn't have the players to win the league, regardless of us buying Pogba. The players around him weren't of a calibre. They weren't up to the mark. But we've got 3 trophies to show for it. So it's almost an Alex Ferguson kind of year when you think he squeezed what he could out of that team. He really did. With players that, were either injured or not necessarily buying into what he wanted to do. So with Woodward, I'm trying really to be measured in terms of what I say with him. Your job is basically to bring in players, and then you can walk around for the rest of the season saying that you brought in the world's best player here or a marquee signing there. But at the moment, I mean, we have Lukaku and Lindelof, and I'm happy they're both with the club. But there are other areas within that team that need strengthening, and Mourinho would have identified them and given that list to Woodward. And for the life of me, you would almost think that Woodward has gone to the shops and lost the list and is now thinking off the top of his head as to what to do next, because I cannot work out why the players that we've been linked to are not yet at the club. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I agree, because I've sort of backed Woodward quite a lot this summer and said, when you look at it in fairness, I think Moyes was always a very couldn't make a decision manager. He backed Van Gaal, and Van Gaal made bad signings. He had a great summer last summer with Mourinho, but this summer it just seems to be going wrong. And I know he got a lot of criticism for being out in New Zealand watching England, the British Lions play. I did read this morning that he's flown out to the US tour today. I mean, what? Why? That's not your job to be out in America. That bit there made me, because I was thinking about that, and I thought Madrid arrive in America soon, and we play them soon. And how long will it be before we're linked to Gareth Bale? Yeah. While they're there, and it would make sense that he's gone to the tour to try and speak to the Madrid hierarchy, because he thinks he's on par with them. We've been linked to Madrid players, and they have not even looked at us because they've gone to Bayern for a 2-year loan, which is another thing that I cannot work out. What is actually going on in terms of the acquisitions for our club?
where other teams in Europe can get quality marquee players on loan, not just for a season, but for 2 seasons. What is going on that Woodward is actually too slow to actually see and get on board with? I do not know. But something needs to happen very soon, because I think, as you said, Mourinho won't be happy. But I'm not sure whether or not he'll move on. I think Mourinho will stay and fight his position. I think it might be Woodward that moves in.
Yeah, and we've got to be fair as well and say, look, we don't know the full story as to what's going on, and it could be that, and I'd be very happy if this happened, and I suppose that's my positive angle, is that, you know, maybe all this is a bit like a smokescreen, because we are working on something big. That may be very naive, but it would explain a lot. But it still, you know, even, I've got to be totally honest, I'd be ecstatic if we went and bought a Neymar or an Aubameyang or even a Ronaldo. That would be fantastic. But it still wouldn't make me move away from the fact that we still need a centre defensive midfielder, and we still actually need a winger. So I'm stunned by the fact that we've struggled to get players that actually, you know, Griezmann would have been our star signing this summer. We know that, and he bottled it. To be blunt, he bottled it. To be then struggling to bring in somebody who is just going to be a left winger, or who can play on the right wing as well, somebody who's going to play as a centre defensive midfielder. We shouldn't be struggling to bring these sort of players in. As you said, Rodney, we're Manchester United. These players should be, you know, walking over hot coals to come from Monaco and come from Spurs and come from Inter Milan. And if you sat on Real Madrid's bench, you should be putting a transfer request in. I think Morata could have forced that more, but yeah. I'm stunned that Perisic, who apparently wants the move to Manchester United so much, has got on the plane. He didn't look happy getting on the plane. I'm sure he would have happily not got on the plane, but that makes me think, well, what's the message Manchester United are sending to him? Are they saying, we do want you, but we're not paying any more than 44 million? Well, tough. We're not signing him then. I think United have either got to play what Inter Milan wants,
or leave.
And get somebody else tomorrow, because we can't wait. I mean, he's off now. He's in China for 2 or 3 weeks, I think, and that's how, you know, if we wait 2 or 3 weeks, he basically starts when we're playing West Ham. I mean, that's no good.
No, I mean it is no good. I mean, we're probably moving into the area of the what I call the Fellaini transfer havoc.
Yeah, good point.
When we start purchasing players within the last 4 hours. And we have Jim White doing his best trying to keep abreast of what's going on. We need to be ahead. We need to be established in terms of our players coming in. They need to be settled with the squad. It was a very stressful transfer window when we purchased Fellaini. If anyone can remember what that was like, we didn't look like we were actually going to get anyone until Fellaini arrived.
I didn't want anyone. I was more than happy just to miss out. But we did get Fellaini right at the end, didn't we?
We got Fellaini, and then we paid an extra 4 or 5 million for him. You know, because we went back literally within an hour or two before the transfer window. I'm hoping that we are able to purchase players that actually strengthen the squad. But what I've seen as kind of key is Manchester City, and again, the neighbours, they've been quick to go and purchase players from other teams within the league. There's nothing to say that Manchester United cannot do the same. Now, I know that we may have a little bit of bias in terms of what we don't like, and like say Matic is not necessarily our cup of tea and you're slow. But if Matic comes in, then a couple of the slow players that we have already need to be moved on. And one of them would definitely have to be Fellaini, because I wouldn't want both of them in the midfield. So if Matic comes in and Fellaini has to go, we still then have to address the area of having someone within the midfield that has the dynamism to move the ball quickly from defence to the attack. And that is something that still needs to be addressed. And it could be Ross Barkley, because he's not travelled with Everton and he stayed behind. So it could be that Man United may be giving out messages that we're looking at players in continental Europe. And it may be that we go to Everton and say, Ross Barkley, would you like to come and join us? We say, yes, thank you. We could go to anyone. Imagine if we went to someone, we took someone from Leicester. Now, people may laugh at that, but Leicester did win the league. And Chelsea, before you know it, went and got Kante because they saw him as a pivotal part of their success. And then they won the league. So it's not that it can't be done. I just think that Manchester United, in terms of who they bring in, needs to be quite savvy. So it's either we forget Perisic, or we get Perisic. But one way or the other, we need to bring in players that strengthen Manchester United.
I'd agree. It's. I was going to mention Ross Barkley. I'm glad you mentioned him. He hasn't travelled with the Everton side on their tour, but I think Everton Spurs are in for him. I'd welcome him at Manchester United just because he's the right sort of midfielder, and somebody we haven't actually got at the moment. But the one thing I haven't said that, again, I'm quite disappointed about is why are we as fans I say accepting because all they want some money from our pocket, but I mean, I'm not going to sit here and accept it and be happy about it. I'm angry about it because why are we penny pinching? Why are we penny pinching for Perisic? Why are we penny pinching for Morata? Why are we ruling ourselves out of deals because it's too much money? Because as far as I'm concerned, Manchester United are the richest club in the world. That was announced 2 weeks ago, and all of that money comes from Manchester United fans. So are we yet again in that situation where our owners, who put us into debt to buy us, are penny pinching again to keep their margins healthy? We didn't do that last summer. We spent the money, and I think, and I'm sure Mourinho will agree with me, I think we should have just gone out and I feel sorry for him. There is no way we shouldn't have even gone into July the 1st, let alone July the 18th. Without all his signings. They should have been done and dusted. I actually expected on July the 1st they were just going to get announced. I thought, we've done our business early, they'll all be sorted out, and they'll just get announced very, very quickly at the start of July. And they haven't. I wish I could offer an explanation other than we've obviously messed up.
Yeah, I mean, the penny pinching part has to come down to the instructions from above. It has to. They may say we're going to be quite strict on the amount of money we're paying out on purchases. Maybe particular purchases that don't have a marquee name. Where they say they're only going to spend so much money because they don't have a resale value, or they don't have a brand that will bring in shirt and profit from the shirt sales. I don't understand. If Perisic as a player has been identified, then we should pay the money that the club has asked for. Can you think of the alternative when we've got players that Manchester United say we don't want, and we have Fellaini, and then we go to another club, we want 45 million for him. Basically, we're telling that club we don't want to sell him. I doubt very much Manchester United would put a value on Fellaini at 45 million. We literally gave away Januzaj. We actually gave him a bonus and said, on your way, we'll pay for you to go somewhere. Manchester United, when they're ready to let players go, they make sure that they're financially taken care of, and they reduce the price for the buying club, so that they can move on. If that's the case, if that's the policy, yeah, exactly, they reduce the price. So if you know that when you have players that come, and once they've no longer of use, that they don't want to go, the club have a policy of doing that, then you have to think of it in the reverse, that you have to pay the premium to get those players in. Because they may not necessarily want to come, or the clubs that have them know that we have that much money and ask us to pay the extra 10, 15 or 20 million. But we will make it back because Manchester United are that successful financially. So I don't understand. It must be an instruction from above in terms of Woodward saying you can only go so far with this deal, because otherwise I cannot see what's stopping it. Cannot.
Well, Inter Milan would have sold Perisic for £50 million. United apparently offered 40, so we're 10 short. So I suppose some people would say don't get ripped off. I'd pay it.
We could have given him Januzaj.
Yeah. Give him Darmian.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, if it's going to come down to that in terms of £10 million of the semantics of it, the fees that footballers are being priced with now is ridiculous. It's almost monopoly money. You cannot put a true value on someone. So and let's take. And
I think people miss the point that you might not want Perisic, but if that's the player Mourinho wants, I'll pay the 10 million to give him the player he wants, rather than I've got you Felipe Anderson for 30 million from Lazio. I've saved 20 million, and Mourinho's there. Well, he's quite good, but he's not two-footed. He can't defend. He's not very hard-working. he's half the player. He's got half the attributes I actually wanted. I'd rather you'd spent the 10 million I needed, and I think that's what Mourinho needed. We needed to go all. If he gives you a list, you look at number one and you go and get it. I think, as Rodney said, what he achieved last season in difficult circumstances, he deserved to be backed in the transfer window. And secondly, he deserved to be backed in the transfer window, and he deserved to have those players all on the plane to America a week and a half ago so he could work with them. And every day that passes, he's not working with them. He probably doesn't even know who he's getting as well, which is even better. But, I mean, I don't know, Rodney. I don't know who we're going to sign. I suppose that's what I've got to say. I don't know.
No, going back to the thing with the Perisic and the price. Let's take this, for example. Matic is valued at what, 40, 45 million? Perisic at 50. So you have a guy that hardly scores goals, that will defend, and you have a guy that will score goals and create more chances. Obviously, there's going to be a premium on your attacking players. Pay the money. It makes no sense to say that you're going to hold out or you don't want to pay that much more money for an attacking player that will guarantee you 3 points and more goals per game than a defender who won't score you, who might score you 4 or 5 goals across a league season. It doesn't add up. It does. In terms of when you say let's gamble, I wouldn't put a bet on that. I wouldn't.
No, and I'm just reading. I'm just going to read some of the comments, but there's something I wanted to say. I'll just say it first, actually, and then I'll start reading some of the comments out because there's some good ones. But what I was going to say is I'm so pleased that we are playing Manchester City in 2 days' time, Real Madrid in 4 days' time, and then Barcelona a week tomorrow night. I'm so glad we've got that to look forward to, because if we had no games and we were just focusing on transfers like we were a month ago, I think I'd be ready to, I don't know what I'd be ready to do, but I'm just so frustrated, and so I wanted to have 4 signings in by now, and then for the next 6 weeks be thinking maybe we'll sign some marquee signing. But we've not even got the players in the core positions yet. That's what worries me. We haven't got the CDM in, and we haven't got the winger in. So thinking about the marquee signing is sort of like, yeah, I'd love us to go and sign a marquee signing. That'd be great. But as I said a few minutes ago, in the back of my head, the core positions need to be sorted. The centre defence midfielder is the most important position of the lot. And when is it going to happen? Who is it going to be? I've got no idea. But let's just go to some of the comments and I can feed them to Rodney to answer. But one person did say, and it's whizzed by and I've missed it. But what they did say is, look, these people who are on about marquee signings like Mbappe, Neymar, etc., 0 chance. Woodward is on his way to America. My interpretation of that comment is pretty much spot on. If we were working on a marquee signing, Woodward wouldn't be flying out to the US tour.
No, I don't think he would. But unless the marquee signing is one of the players within the Madrid team, I mean, that's the only thing I could actually put back in terms of answering that point. But you would actually, on hand on heart, say that Woodward would be nowhere near the tour. He'd be trying to bring a player in so that he could strengthen the squad.
Yeah. Okay, let's whiz through some of these comments and get people's thoughts. David Carey says Ed Woodward has to do is pay 45. All he has got to do is pay 45 million for Fabinho and get Renato Sanchez on loan.
Sounds reasonable.
Sebastian Rapp says you're going to get even sadder if Manchester United stick with a 4-4-3 with 4-3-3 with Fellaini as a CAM against City and Madrid. Well, this is the scary thing. It's only pre-season football, Rodney, but we are going to line up against Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Man City with Fellaini at some point, probably from nearly all of it.
Yeah, if Mourinho does that, then I'm definitely saying that as what I called it's a smoke screen. No manager worth their salt would start with Fellaini against Madrid as 4-4-3. So if he does start, then that Mourinho has an ace up his hand that he doesn't want to show right now. He has to. There's no way.
Rick Powell says Alexis Sanchez will come in on deadline day. You know what? I don't care if we sign Ronaldo on deadline day. It'd be nice, but I think it's like
one.
What are we doing now? What are we doing now? The season starts in a few weeks and we're not prepared at all. Evan says Idrissa Gueye or Nainggolan. I don't know whether Nainggolan signed his new contract. I've sort of took my eye off the ball on that one because I presumed he would. Rude9 the Master says, why does Woodward need to go to USA? Well, he actually went out to the China tour last year because there was that famous picture of him giving a high five to Mourinho. But he'd done all his business then. He's not done his business. He's not done half his business yet, but he's going out to have a bit of a jolly. Shaka Phillips says you've got to blame Woodward. He's had 2 months to bring in at least 3 players off Mourinho's list. Yes, Griezmann affected our transfer plans, but it happens. We should have had backup targets. Mourinho will not sell Fellaini, says Shavel. I agree. I don't think he will.
I'd give him away.
Yeah. We don't want a fee. Just get him go.
Don't want a fee. Just let him go. Thank you.
Antoine Griezmann is the marquee signing next summer, says 3000 KJH. Yeah, what about this summer? And Manchester United is slowly wilting away. A sad time to be a United fan, says Ozamar Manzour. No, I don't agree with that. I mean, for all the frustration and issues with the current squad, you know, a year ago we were on about Deadwood, and the only Deadwood we've got rid of is Rooney and Janusaj. There's still plenty more. I mean, we've not even spoken about, you know, poor old Fellaini's had a bit of a... but, you know, Fellaini's... It's not about last night. I've got to say, it's not about last night with Fellaini. He is... Some people like him, but whether you like him or not, I think everyone accepts in our midfield he's just not got the attributes and he's too slow. But one player last night who we've not mentioned, who really deserves to be mentioned, Phil Jones. Everyone goes on about selling Chris Smalling. I don't mind if you want to sell Chris Smalling, but I don't understand why nobody doesn't put Phil Jones ahead of him. I mean, he is atrocious. He's injury prone and he's rubbish.
He's a very clumsy centre back, who you know. I understand that the first rule of defending is to make sure that you stop the ball or the player or both, but there doesn't seem to be any grace with him at all, and because of it, he does get injured. He doesn't seem to look like a Manchester United player, no matter how long he's been there. I either one of them will go, but I have a funny feeling that it might be Smalling and Jones might survive.
I agree. I think it will be Smalling because we'll get more money for him. Although Jones was linked to West Brom. If he wants a lift, I'll pick him up. It's not. I don't mind. You don't even have to pay me petrol money.
He can make his own way.
Yeah. I think it's nice to see that there is some. Even I'm reading on Twitter at the moment, but I've been reading the live comments as well. There is some confidence out there that we might just go and do a few sort of massive deals. I hope so. I really do. I'm
not even worried about whether it's massive deals. I just need. I'm going by what Mourinho said. He said I like to employ specialists. So if he knows that he needs a number 7 or an attacking midfielder, then he'll go and get someone who's comfortable in that position, someone who's played in that position for at least 2 or 3 seasons. Now, whoever comes in will automatically cause the likes of Mata, Mkhitaryan and Lingard to think about their position because they're going to fill that role automatically, because the strikers, Martial, Rashford and Lukaku, they're nailed on to be within the squad. So it's those other 3 that have to think about, will they be first team or are they going to come off the bench? So whoever comes in needs to think of that, because those other 3 definitely are in the squad.
I'm just. Did you hear me say that at the start, Rodney? That if Manchester City fans want to watch the game on Friday in the UK, they've got to subscribe to MUTV. It's the only place.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Spend their money wisely.
The Neymar to PSG thing's still carrying on. A few people have asked about that. I would laugh my head off. Happening. I would laugh my head off if he. I think if he leaves Barcelona, he comes to Manchester United. By the way, I don't think he'll go to PSG. Why would you go to PSG? Oh. In pub league, we can match the wages. He can wear the number 7 or the number 10. Most watched league in the world.
I think he would go there for tax purposes more than anything.
Well, he's a mercenary if he does that.
Yeah, I think he would. I think PSG have got smart accountants, and anyone who goes there is okay financially. Pretty much like those players are at Barcelona and Real Madrid. So I would like to see him in a United shirt, but we would literally have to break the bank to get him. But then we'd definitely have to get rid of Jones and Smalling and Fellaini.
They might do a swap deal: Jones, Smalling, and Fellaini. And if they give us 10 million as well, we'll do the deal for Neymar.
Yeah.
3 for 1 and 10 million.
Why not?
Okay. Let me just have a look. It's whizzed by. The hour's whizzed by as per usual. Are you going to watch the game on Friday, Rodney? I know you couldn't because of work, could you, last night?
Oh, I honestly, I'm tired with work, and I take my hat off to those of you who did get up this morning and do it. So well done.
I've been up since 1:30.
Cool.
I thought it was going to be harder than it was, but it actually was. I felt it at work this morning at about between 9 and 10. I was like, sometimes I'll go into a meeting and I find it hard to stay awake. I was finding it hard to stay awake, just sat doing my normal work at my desk. I was like, I'm in trouble. At the start of an 8-hour shift, I'm in trouble. So I went out and got a coffee, and that helped. I put about 3 sugars in it, and I was all right. But I tell you what, it was fantastic. The last 2 watch-alongs have been really good. I think we'll start to see a lot more people on the watch-alongs for the next 3, because we've got City. Yeah. That will kick off at 2:30 in the early hours of Friday morning. So make sure you pull a sickie on Friday and you watch it with us. That'll be good. It's going to be good. I think the good thing about these next 3 games is that for anyone who didn't watch the Real Salt Lake game last night, we were talking about it, and Real Salt Lake are actually playing tomorrow night. So they only played their first team players for the first half an hour. For the next hour, it was sort of guest players and reserve players. I mean, they were rubbish, but they actually looked quite good against us. So the exciting thing for me is when we play City, Real Madrid and Barcelona, there'll be a lot of substitutions, but we will know the players and we will know the quality of those players in the opposition. So we'll be able to gauge it far better. It's hard to gauge at the moment. And so looking forward to that very much. So make sure you join us for the watch along if you can do. I'm a co-commentator down at the moment, Rodney. If you ever fancy doing a watch along with me, actually, I forgot to mention that.
All right.
Mad Marcus has gone AWOL. Genuinely, nobody knows anything. There's not been any fallout or anything. He's just disappeared and blocked a load of people on Twitter. I don't know what.
Oh no.
Midlife crisis or something. I don't know. But I would, if he is watching, thanks Marcus for everything you've done. Thanks for dropping me in it last night as well. That was good. That was nice. I'm only joking. No, we got on all right. But there's lots to look forward to. The football's what matters. The transfers are going to they are, Rodney, aren't we? We're both old enough to know the transfer summer will go one of 2 ways. We'll either get the players in, or there'll be no value in the market, like we had with Sir Alex. You know, sometimes we think we go a whole summer and sign no one.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think that we will get players in. It won't necessarily be the players we're thinking of or we've been linked to. It might be a left field player. It will be players from probably within the Premier League, and you know, people might raise an eyebrow and think, "Why have we brought them in?" But they might be just what we need. You know, specialists for a particular position. I could mention a few, but I don't know. It might not go down too well.
I just got a horrible feeling. I think the centre defensive midfield is going to be Matic, and that worries me. If you've joined late, just watch the start of the video. I explain it why. It's nothing to do with Matic not being a good player. It's explained by me and Rodney and the live comments quite well for about 10 minutes in a quite deliberate and forceful way. But we've already got Carrick and Fellaini who aren't very quick, and Matic isn't very quick, and I think that's the problem for United. It is that not quickness in the speed. Like I said, if we had a midfield 6 of Pereira, Pogba, Herrera, Fosu Mensah, Renato Sanchez and Fabinho, that's what I mean. None of them are really lightning fast, but they've all got the right attributes in relation to the movement of the ball, the movement on the ball, the tenacity in the tackle and the positional sense. They are quick-minded footballers. It's not about quick legs. It's not like FIFA, like somebody says, or let's just buy the quickest players in the game because you can run faster than everyone else. It's about positional quickness and mind quickness, and we've got too many slow players like that, and that's the problem for me.
Yeah, it is. It's not against someone like Michael Carrick. I think if Michael Carrick were playing in a team like Bayern Munich or somewhere, they would have built the team around him, and they would have had midfielders around him who were quick, which would have allowed him to demonstrate his passing ability. But we don't have that. He's surrounded by Fellaini, which then makes the job that he's doing 10 times more difficult. So we need fresh legs to go with wise heads.
I'd agree.
That's the best way. Yeah.
I've just realised I've not mentioned throughout the video, when Rodney's on, we normally get loads of likes on the video, so make sure you do drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, bottom right hand corner. And also, people were asking on the watch along last night, I've not put the link in the video for so long. We do have United Stand t-shirts available now. They're through Amazon. The link is in the video description. They are only available in the UK and America at the moment because Amazon are only selling them there at the moment, but we're asking them to go globally. So if you want a United Stand t-shirt, the link is in the video description. A lot of people were asking about that last night in the watch along, and I finally found the links again because I hadn't put it on for a while. Tell everybody your Twitter feed, Marcus. God, I'm living
Marcus.
in the past. Rodney.
Marcus. Yeah, it's Rodney Cyrus with a C. Rodney Cyrus with a C.
Okay, well, I am going to go and get some sleep now.
Yeah, you do that.
Looking forward to the City game. Back tomorrow at probably won't be 7 AM. I'll probably do it off my phone again at about 7:45. So make sure you are subscribed and you've clicked the bell so you get the notification when we go live. And then back again tomorrow with a show at about, I might do 8:30 tomorrow night, to be honest. Go back to that. But thanks for coming on, Rodney. Thanks for everybody who's watched. It's flown by. Really good chat. It's not always rosy in the garden. I think there are a few red flags with United at the moment, and we desperately need to sort that midfield out. The Perisic thing just makes us a laughing stock, and it seems to happen too much on Woodward's watch. Is it his fault? I don't know. I think it'd be unfair to say it is, but we do get laughed at a lot. But I'd rather we just spend the money. One thing, let me just double check. I'm probably being blagged on the live comments here, Rodney, but if it was true, it would make my night in a way.
What's that?
Somebody just said that Matic has agreed terms with Juventus, but I cannot.
What?
It's not true. Like I say, it would have made my night if he had, but no, United is still focusing in on Matic. So it's one of them days. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.